I could talk to you about.
Yeah, is it on or not? What's going on with your thing?
We're on.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So we'll start from the Yesh Lahagdim, right? Page Shinun Hey. How'd you get to Shinun Ches?
I have no mistake, nothing.
No wonder you have a different Havod in the dance, you know.
I remember even.
We're helping me.
Page Shinun Hey. Okay, this is good because it's a summary b'tzad atzmei. Middle of Lahavin calls the Yesh Lahagdim, right here.
Oh, the game.
They're gonna do that later. You'll go back. You'll go back?
Yeah. It won't make a difference.
Lahavin calls the Yesh Lahagdim Tchila Mashnis Bar Le'il. She's going to say everything here, so we don't have to even summarize it. Remember, we're up to the whole Nakud of Teres and Mamutza, like Ak. The B'Teire Yesh Klal Prat. So the Maimer, before we got into the whole difference between Zmiris Heilich Ukecha and Va'eir Shashuyim, that there's two levels in Teira, right? The Shashuyim Lefanei, the Primis HaTeira, Etzem HaTeira, and Zmiris Heilich Ukecha, what David HaMelech was punished for. Before that, he was talking about that there's two things in Teira, Klal and Prat, which was connected to the two things in Ak, the Klal and Prat, right? Staka Baraisa about Alma. So he's saying, the B'Teire Yesh Klal and Prat. That Prat B'Teire Zeu Kamosh HaTeira Yordo Labia. Teira as Prat is when the Teira, how it comes down in the elements of Silsberi Tzilasiya. Shekol Pasha, who I'm Shocha Protis, Meirin Sev Baruch. That whole Perek we learned together.
The Megillah,
Yeah, the Megillah. That every Prat in Teira, every Pasha is Shocha Proti, is a specific Shocha. If you remember, he said in Zman, this happens, Zman Hamabel, Zman Avram, Zman Mitzrayim, and so on. When Shocha Protis, Hamadregus Dabiyah. And when Shocha Protis, when it comes down, each thing in its place, its time. By the Dezer, Rubinim V'Tikun Eilom. That's the part of it, Teira, the Prat, that makes the Binyan V'Tikun Elam. It builds the world and it's Tikun Elam, because it's Lefierach Elam. V'Klal the Teira, but then there's the other side of Teira, which is the Klal. Chsuma Nidna. Zeo Teira K'meshoy B'Chochma G'dum Da'ak. That's the Teira as it stands, the Chochma G'dum Da'ak, where it's like one big vision. And everything is one picture. The Chol HaParshas, the Chol HaNyonim, He Mesham B'Chinas Klal. There everything is a Klal. It's not broken down. So the Mabel, when he sees Mitzrayim and Ala Pratim, it's like one picture. Like the Eibishter has one picture of what he wants. So that can't do Pinyan Tikkun Elam because it's not L'Fiarach Elam. It's much more specific. In his boyer, and we explained, the Zel Beis HaMadrega Shabbatera B'Chin Zmiris Heilich Ukecha. And to understand this, he began to explain that the Teira has two things. The Zmiris Heilich Ukecha, what David HaMelech said, that the Teira is for me like a song. And the second part of the Teira is when Eibishter's V'Eir Shashuyim L'Fanech. That's my Shashuyim is Eibishter's. It's in other words, it's higher than someone's midas. Midas li. Shashuyim Atzmim, the essential pleasure of the Eibishter himself.
Why would David make such a mistake?
Halavai, we all make such mistakes. What's the mistake? The mistake is that he look. It says that in Zaman Tzara, he needed some way to free himself from the Tzara. So what's in the previous memory he says. So what does he do? He was in a really difficult situation. Think of the Eden in Siberia. So a difficult situation. The only thing was he was made Mizbein on the Teira. Then he says, look, everything, the whole Welt is bottled to the Teira. So that gave him a little freedom. Huh? Good. What the Teira really is, look, his Nenesh, but Nenesh on what? What did he do? He made the Teira more his, and saying, instead of saying Ganzen Atzmus, That's the Zach Nenesh is Moshe's Nenesh. Why he hit the stone instead of speaking to the stone? You understand the Fierach? If you have a problem with David and Bathsheba, verstehe ich. But this is like exactly.
I don't know. No, it seems like in Chassidus they have an issue with this.
No, first of all, Nenesh is not up to Chassidus. Nenesh is in Chumah, is in Tanakh. He was Nenesh. It's Nenesh. It's similar. Look. David HaMelech fought all the Milchamas, and yet the Eibishter said he can't build the Beis HaMikdash because he had blood on his hands.
That's verstehe.
No, I think it's a Nenesh L'Fiaz. The Rebbe brings in Sich is a Chet in Losh Chesed and Ba'atzadik. It's not a Chet. L'Fi'erech, what was demanded of him was what should he have done in Zaz Tzara. He shouldn't have thought about himself. He should have sein Tainig Gedav sein, the Tainig Ha'odin. It's
Okay,
it's not really for here.
No, okay.
Yeah, Friday, the Rebbe Rashab asked a deeper question. He said, now that we understand that David HaMelech understood the Mile of Torah to the greatest extent that a human being can understand it, now comes the question why. In other words, in Tanya, verstehe, you understood it, or you took whatever, like you said, but the Torah is the Here it comes out that he understood it to the highest level that a human being can understand. And he asked the question, but I forgot the answer.
It doesn't really feel there's the answer. The advice is the answer. Look, the bottom line is this. But let's not talk about Nanish for a moment.
Right.
Let's just talk about the higher Madreg.
Like
Higher Madreg is... Do you understand the difference? First of all, the two Madregas. Shashem Lefanecha and Zmiris Heil Chakecha goes like this. Zmiris Heil Chakecha is more, I have tainug, I have pleasure from doing a mitzvah the Eibishter. It's about what it does for me, so to speak. That's what he says basically. Whereas really there's a higher level. That your pleasure shouldn't be what it does for you. Your pleasure should be the fact that Eibishter has pleasure from you doing a mitzvah. I feel a lach tevetzim. Even if you ask you to bang, cut down a tree, it should also be as our pleasure. David focused more on himself instead of on the timing of the Eibishter. That's the two levels. The question of Nanash, I don't see Nanash as such a thing. When you talk on those levels, you're talking about every little thing, is every blemish. Is like a Kohen Gadol has one Aveda, get the name Kedesh Kadosh, he dies.
My question
on that level,
I don't know if my question is the same question. Aber David Melch, when I'm von den klügsten Menschen für die Welt, wie kommt es to make this type of mistake? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Look, if he had learned Ayin Beis, maybe he would have not made this mistake.
Maybe it's not called a mistake. Maybe it's called...
I don't know, the word, it doesn't say mistake, it says Nenash. I mean, you have to, the question could be on every Enish to the Tzaddikim was on the highest level. Because it's Dakas Dikazachna. It's a felt of the Shar Hanun, Vitamol, the whole thing goes. God Almighty, most of us don't even reach the first step. And nobody bothers us.
The Rebbe says why in Shir HaShira doesn't use the mashal for the greatest love, the mashal of the same who's the mashal of a Chassan Kala. Why doesn't he use the mashal of a Chassan? And he answers, Val Shleim HaMelech nicht going to Chassid. Was heißt? He was such a Chassan, he was such a... hat nicht gehad mit Gamen zu verbringen. He didn't have it to verbringen. He couldn't conceive of the great Maila of the Chassan, of the Rebbe Chassan, because he didn't have the opportunity to learn.
As a comment, that's the Rebbe in Purim in Simchas Torah Tavshin Tazayin, which is recorded by the way. Somebody.
That's the raised hand one. Wasn't Yudches?
I'm talking about Simchas Torah Tavshin Tazayin.
Oh, Simchas Torah.
Yeah, so the Rebbe
recorded.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I recorded after Shki, after the Yom Tov was over. The Rebbe's Yom Tov wasn't over. The Rebbe heard about it later. He said he shouldn't do it again. It's recorded. I have a transcript of it. I heard it. So only from Blengi here, I realized that the Rebbe said, drank so much mashke. And you could hear Fabringen and Yom Tov, they could Fabringen. So in the middle there, the Rebbe speaks about Isaac Hamden and says, Gefeshissim is also in the Meises and Nisht. The Rebbe, like you can see, looks around. He says, Sedamis of Sayin Yinik Sechetzenim. Like 3-4 times. He said, okay, besser Nizad. Aber Simchas Torah, it chat with me. Then he looked at, you could see he was, and then he said, Isaac Hamden said, as Abe, Shlomo HaMelech was Gezen at Rebbe Chassid, he wouldn't have used the mashal from the Israel, he would have used the Rebbe Chassid. I guess that's a unique as a Chatzin,
Because it started the task, the B'shas Meise, it started the task.
Reden la Chassan Kala nicht in
No, he's saying, anyway. All you can really say is, you see how bedakus, a thing is a drop off. That's the nanish. That's the bottom line. It's not the nashim kerkenu. That's pashut. Because you're talking here unbelievable level as it is. So anyway. So bottom line is that there's two dargis in Torah. One is midas heilich ukecha. There's midas heilich ukecha. Zeh Torah k'moshi biz galos the naveless chachma shalamayla Torah. The lower level is the level where the Torah is bizgalus, and it's only a darg of naveless. How do you translate naveless?
The best we had was dripping down, although that's noiseling.
Naveless is like, the truth is naveless is like leaves that fall off a tree. That's what it comes down to. It's like a fall off. So naveless, it's only naveless chachma shebet shalamayla Torah. The gab madrega zu tefes makom ha'eva chai shel elements. This level, a Welt has an sinus makim because it's Torah that as it comes down the mat. And that's where David had simcha, zmiris. When it was not good for him, begashmius, and he had a sort of begashmius, that's what gave him pleasure. It's almost like the idea where a Talmud Chacham makes his parnasa from learning, not from this. So that was never a shleimus, but it saved his life. That's it.
For anyone that may be listening or will listen, we're holding now page Shin Nun Hey.
Right.
4 lines from the bottom.
And it's a summary of the last maimah. It's Ekev Ayin Gimel. Yeah. Shari Kol Chayes Elam is Toli B'Digduk Echas Achas Shel Teira. So for David, what was his bonus? Remember, David is lying, let's say, in a deep pit. His grace at Tzaddik. Shaul is chasing him. Just put yourself in his shoes. He has no one to hold on to. There's no salvation. There's Alein in a cave. So his bonus was that he's connected to Teira. And the ganze Welt is garnish mit that. There's a digdukal. One digdukal Teira, the whole of the Welt is Tolian. So it gave him. So if that's the case, the Welt is not there for smoking for him. So he was able to have strength to survive. That was his. That's what he did. She said, "Zmidas hoylichukecha." Deine chukim, the Rebbe's chukim is mine as mid, and the mail and everything else. What does he care about? It's all bottle.
This was probably a very big ruchnis dikanokama going on. Shaul HaMelech was the tzaddik adoyer.
Yeah, absolutely. Remember, the same David also said, "What do you need a spider for?" He understood everything developed, but a spider. So the Rebbe sent the spider to save his life. It's all part of that parsha. So look, it means that it means when a person is desperate, sometimes you're going to compromise a bit. For him, his compromise wasn't. How could save my life? Basically, that's what it comes down to.
He's actually complimenting it.
Obviously. Listen, most of us wouldn't be thinking about Torah. You think about how the hell do I get out of this place? You make a compromise. You tell Shaul, you know what, I won't bother you, I won't be king, please.
Aber Chassidus, wie kommt Shalom? Okay, I don't know if it's here now. Okay, come.
Okay, Shahari Kol Chayes Elmas Chol B'Dugul Chashul. V'gam Shal Yedei Teir Nichris Yinikah Shalahem. So remember, there's another Taich in Zmiris. Melosh Nopshneid. The two klippers, whether it's Mitzad Makif or Mitzad Ributz and Tzumim. So the second thing that David was looking at, as through Teira, the Cheref Pefir is there, that there's through Teira cuts off the Yinikah Shachetzenim both ways. So that's the second Taich in Zmiris. Bottom line is, he saw the Teira as something that was for him something. It helped him. Save his life, whatever. That's Zmiris. That's how Teira is prat. That's how the Teira, David is an example of the Teira comes down to your life.
Not only for me, it was for the Welt.
Yeah. Tikkun binyan v'tikkun elam, as you said. Okay. The truth is, if you think about it, without this part, Teira is no prat, we have no Welt. So it's necessary. It's just not the ultimate.
At that point, it was the ultimate.
For David, you mean?
Because of the world.
Right.
How do you say that? It's more ultimate than the world.
No, we're talking about
the whole purpose of Torah and all that stuff is for the world.
That's probably
no.
He said for the Eibishter.
No,
the world is the purpose of the world is for the Eibishter.
Good. But we're talking here. But
Too darkness for me. Okay.
You're too early a little. That's what it is.
Yeah, a little.
Because you're the only guy that's wearing a tie.
Oh yeah. That's because I have a stain on my shirt.
You have stain on your tie too.
That happens. That's why I sometimes wear 2 ties.
Sweet, it's not only me. It's everybody loves you.
Okay. Well, look, we're going now next level. And that's called the essential pleasure of Teira. Shashrim, as in like playthings, that's a pleasure. That's how the Teira is not the prat. That's how the Teira is united with the Atzmus Ein Sof itself, the essence of the divine light. The Geshem Shalagaba Atzmus Ein Sof Ein Tofis Mokum Kol HaGiluyim Shabel.
Let's see this Shashuya Melech Batzmus. What is this? What is this business?
Remember, we learned the same thing earlier. There's the two targets in Eir. That's really what it's coming down to. Remember, Teira and Eir is the same thing. There's the Eir L'Firach Ha'elam. There's the Eir Ein Sof. That's L'Maylam Ha'elam. This is the Dveikus of Eir in the Moyer. Take away the word Teira for a moment.
No, I understand. I'm asking, what's Shashuya Melech Batzmus?
No, so take away those words also for a minute. Okay. Remember the whole discussion of the two Hamshachos of Eir? That's how the whole Hamshach begins. That one is its Indian is only represents the Eibishter. So Eir David B'Moyer, it's like like a. Then there's an Eir, that's Eir Agvul, that creates the worlds. The whole thing, difference between the Ovis and everything, the whole, all the Mamarim until here. So remember, what was the necessity for the first Eir? So he says, because Bitla Elam. Because the Eir that creates the world doesn't create Bitl. If you want to have Bitl, you have to have a connection, you have to have that. Remember, he asked the question in the beginning, what's the purpose of the higher Eir? To create a world, you don't need the higher Eir, but you don't have Bitl in the world. So for us to feel the Remumus and how God is beyond us, you have to have a taste of something that's more like a Eir that's beyond the Elamus. That was the Nukud. And then he asked the question, if you remember, then the Eir Agvul creates Bitl. So he said, no, but the Bitl there comes from the first level. All he's really doing here is bringing it now into Aveda. That's really what Torah is, because that's Haskalah. In Torah you also have these two things. So when you say Torah, what is the Torah? For us, it begins Torah as a book of halachas or a book of mitzvahs. So he already went far beyond that. The Torah is a stakabad about Alma. This is the blueprint. This is get beyond the Torah as a sefer of mitzvahs. The Torah is chachmas l'tzeina shel Kadosh Baruch Hu. But here you got a problem. If it's the Eibishter's chachmas l'tzeina, then it's not ours. What is it connected to us? We deal with life every day. The most you could say, Torah tells me what to do. I mean, like more of a Litvish approach. I question what the Torah is in the Mila. Torah tells me to wake up in the morning, to daven, go to work, Masamat and Bamuna. That's it. What do I have to do? So the real point here is the Torah is has nothing to do with us. So you have to say the Torah has another level that does have something to do with us. But is that really Torah? When you talk about Torah, how it's connected to us, the Dakus David HaMelech. We all relate to Torah Pratim. You look in Torah, Antika Pash, you have a hira for your life. But Torah also has a part that is Lamayla L'Kol Inyan. It's like Eidin Sof Lifnei HaTzimtzum, that Eid HaKlikvul. So really, Shashri Melech Latzmusa is just saying the Torah that you're using to guide your life is naveless, is a leaf from a big tree. And that tree, it's the Eibishter's, it's his pleasure, so to speak. Torah is God's domain. It's not he gave us. It's not like he gave the Avodim a book. Here's a book how to live your life, but it's a book for inferior human beings. Since you have a taiva you have taivas and you have a temptation to steal and to kill, I tell you, don't steal and don't kill. Live a life, a moral life. Now you can say that's the whole Torah. It's a guidebook for inferior human beings. I'm just.
So what's
the answer is no. Torah is God's let's call it playground, if you want to put it. It's his. It's an expression of himself in the deepest possible way. I mean, I think he's going to say later. There's the Gimel of Shosh Hashanah when the Eibishter learns Torah for himself. Said that earlier. Okay. Yeah. So you have to think what it means. What does the Eibishter with his Torah alone, and there's nothing else? Let's put it this way. If you were God, and there's no tzimtzum yet. What's going on? So we know God is lonely. He made this whole miserable world, as they say. So, but besides that, what kind of existence is that? It's hard to imagine, because we're not God. But basically, it's God in his own domain. There's no Metzias as we know it. The best example is ourselves. How are you? Let's say you're a person that's self-confident and you don't need anyone today. You're going to be alone, isolated. How are you? You're sitting in a park and you're doing whatever your heart desires. In a good way. You and your own intimate self. I mean, that's the closest thing we can compare the Eibishter. What does it look like? If you were to put it down on paper. So for the Eibishter, it looks like that's what the Torah is. I'm talking about beside the Pratim. The Eibishter's own, it's like an expression of himself. That's the best way we could understand it, because we can't understand it on God's level. We can understand it on our own level. So when I speak to you, or you speak to me, you're outside of your etzem. But if you're speaking to yourself, so to speak, machshava, what do you think about in the shower? What do you think about when no one else is there and it's uninhibited? That's the closest thing we can compare to is what means Eid Ein Sof. That's beyond the elements. I would think that's what Torah is. It's when the Eibishter has pleasure from something within his own being.
What's meant
because it's Ilya Yosef. If I were him, if I knew him, I would be him. Ultimately, it comes down to learning Chassidus. You get a sense a little. One thing that's for sure, it's not negate the trivial things that bother us. I mean, Yisrael all of a machshava. That when the Eibishter thinks, the first thing comes up, Eden. What does that mean, B'chla? You know, there's a Baal Shem Tov at Margish when he saw Eid, the first thing he thinks of, this is Eid. But we look at the Eid as a Kilam Shama B'guf. What does it mean, the concept of Eid, if you take away the guf, and you take away all the externals? What's the etzem of Eid? What's mit Lib Gehat, the Baal Shem Tov, the Rebbe Lib Gehat Eid, Ba'av Atzmis? What does that mean exactly? What did he like? You know, like the human being. What's up with that Eid? You know what I'm saying? It's not such a simple answer. We usually just skip over this. We say, "Man, I don't think about my Eid," and you don't think about it too much. I think it has to be through process of elimination, because you have to go away. Like David HaMelech liked that it was helped him. The question is, if you take that away, what's left? You know, it's ultimately ultimate bittul. I would say an ultimate bittul. Geshem and Garelk is an example. The Dakus. What do I mean? He could sit for hours in the morning, and he goes into his world. He remembers the Rebbe. He says Zin Zayin Negunim, and he goes back to Tov Shechai. Right? Is that correct? I'm just giving. I don't mean it to. I'm not trying to flatter. I'm just saying as an example. Goes in a different world. Nobody can relate to that. Only him. If you have a little taste of it, you get. I mean, it's like a different world. But then there's it's a certain type of bittul to a higher thing that's beyond yourself. That's what it comes down to. I mean, I'm just trying to find Asius. That's what it. Remember, going back to bittul. Remember, this Nadrega is ultimately about bittul. It's not about. That's about a different. That's not your mitzias. We all have tastes of it. There's no question. There are times that every person has a point where you complete. It's not negate. It's like what he says. You have pleasure not because you do the mitzvah with Eibush. You have pleasure because you know that Eibush has pleasure from this. Maybe you're Eved that's mamish bottle. His pleasure is your pleasure. I also Bastugm is a chassid na Rebbe. If you did something, the Rebbe had pleasure. It's tough for the guy, but what you have pleasure when you tell your wife or you tell your friends, you know, I did something. He said the Rebbe has pleasure. You suddenly just feel great, man. I gave the Rebbe pleasure. I mean, that's what he basically says in the previous page, right? Mm-hmm. That the pleasure is not. He says even more. Not only pleasure that you were the person that fulfilled the Eibishter's Ratzon. He has pleasure, you have pleasure. I think that's really what it comes down to. I think I think the only way to understand it is by going away from not understanding what the Eibishter, what's going on there. It's just that it's not me. That's the Unterste Shur. It's not you and your Metzius. That's, I think, the best way to really to understand this. Look, you know the beautiful Taich. I think who says it? The Baal Law. The Rebbe brings it. The Eibishter tells Moshe says, he's reaching the highest Madrei. He says, "The Hareini noch schvidecha." The Eibishter says, "Lo yareini adam v'chay." Then he adds, "Isa sachera upon lo yaro." You know the classic. Can't see God's face. So the Rebbe once, I remember, if I bring him, put him to. Yeah. Meridik. I mean, I think it's very gay here. So the Rebbe asked the question. First of all, Moshe Rabbeinu was a smart man. He knows that you can't live and see the Eibishter. So mitamol, what does he want? The answer the Eibishter told him is an answer anyone could say. Secondly, why did the Eibishter have to rub it in? He already said, so he should have said, I'll give you something. But he has to add, like, in your face. I told you can't see it, you're not going to see my face. So the Rebbe brings this from the Baal Law. He writes, from what does he have? The Pirush Panim Yofis on Allah Teira.
Panim Yofis on Medrash?
Allah Teira. It's from the Baal Law. Anyway, he says like this. You have to read it. The reading is like this. Re'iseh sachere uponai. Aber ponai wirst du sehen durch Leiro, durch Nishkulti. In other words, so you'll see both. But achere you see directly. And uponai, dus nicht wollen, damals wirst du sehen. In other words, it's not about you. If you come in, I want to see your face, then it's you. It's like things that happen. The Likutei Torah brings about shikha, like a berech v'nach kavod. If you run, you can't run after kavod and look over your shoulder, as the Rebbe says. If you actually run away from it, right? If you actually run away from it, it's only it emerges. In other words, there are things in life that you can't, for example, go buy love or buy happiness. Head of tracht wegen sich, and suddenly it's there. As soon as you think about yourself, he's back to you again. That's ultimately this type of bittul.
It's like trying to go to sleep.
So, no, honestly, so I think to the first madrega, if a person, I think, for a period of time gets to that place where they stop thinking about themselves, then the shashrim lefane becomes more of a tangible thing. It's hard to describe it, basically, because you can't. As soon as you start saying what's in it for me, then you're back to the same thing. It's you again. I mean, that's the way it comes down. That's what it comes down. And I can just speak for myself. There are times, sometimes you get so involved in something you don't even know you're there. You don't even feel hungry or anything like that. It's times like that where you. Now, what it ultimately, I mean, he describes it as the Rebbe Rashab is going there, this place.
Yeah.
So the Kashem Shaligaba, okay, so he says like this. The Kashem Shaligaba Atzma Seidin Sof Ein Teufels Malkum Kol HaGiluyim Shebe Elamis. So Zay Memasber, what's the Azam Madrege? A Madrege where the whole Elamis is nicht Teufels Malkum Legamis. Can't it? It ganze nicht. That's Shashrim Lefone. You're at that level. K'mei Kein Einem Teufels Malkum Legaba HaTeirah. So since Teirah is Shashrim, that level, nothing's negay. So that when David says Midas Hayali, he was already not in that place, because you're talking a place where the whole thing is nishnegay. Nimtza Shalagaba Teirah K'mei Shehi Be'ez Galus Teifus Malkum E'er D'Seder Ishtalshus. So this is the conclusion. He's just summing up. So we see from this, the lower Madreg in Teirah, that is Teifus Malkum E'er D'Seder Ishtalshus. It has some Tfisas Malkum. It has some substance, some significance. L'gaba Teirah K'moshi Mechedes Ba'atzma Sein Esav V'hainu HaTeirah K'moshi L'mayla M'Seder Ishtalshus the Klal Kol HaGaluyim D'Seder Ishtalshus Einim Teifus Malkum Klal K'mei D'Kula Kamei K'la Chashiv. Nothing is Teifus Malkum yet. The whole thing is tough, bottle. We go on? Yeah, okay. V'hine Be'geres HaKedesh Anal Da. So Peir Kufayin Hey. V'hine Be'geres HaKedesh Anal Da. The Geres HaKedesh Da. The Dibra Maschels Mirshay Lichu Kecha Mavur. B'chinas HaTeirah K'meishi B'chinas Shashuya Atzmim Al Zanemer Ve'eya Etzli Amen Emoin Al Tikramen Ela Uman. At this level of Shashuyim, he's adding a new thing now. On this we say, V'haya Etzli. This is about Meibishter. How do you take Shpapashus Etzli? It's his, Uman is his
Craftsman.
There's three things here. I'm not sure exactly how to say it, but there's three things here in this word. Uman is a craftsman.
But that's the I'll take it.
Right. The Amain is one of two things here. Amain means when a person is real, like by Mordechai was Oymenes Hadassah.
Like education.
Rear them, exactly. At the same time, Amen can mean faithful.
In Tanya he brings all this, yeah.
So the Eya Esli Amen is saying that I am Amen by the Eibishter. So it doesn't mean that I'm reared and very close to the Eibishter, or I'm faithful to the Eibishter. I'm not sure.
Okay, fine. But Al Tikrev we know for sure what it means. So Al Tikrev Amen.
I'm the Eibishter's Uman. I'm the Eibishter's craft.
He's going to explain that.
Or the Eibishter's tool.
No, that's going to be his question. That's going to be his question now. V'tzorach l'hoven echa teirah madrega zu nikra b'shem Uman. Machas zala mayla megamra me'elamis. Uman means the Eibishter's tool.
The Eibishter's tool.
This is like his it's his tool to create.
Or is it okay?
So we're back to. So now he's back. It's basically like his talk about Aisha about Alma. It's the blueprint. So if it's Shashay Musay, what's the Al Tikra?
Uman is higher than Uman.
Exactly. On Etzley is higher than everything. Why are we bringing on that level? In other words, he has to bring the Geras HaKedesh, because the Geras HaKedesh makes that. Because you could say Etzley Uman is a lower darga than Shashuyim Lefanai. There's no question. But since in the Geras HaKedesh she says it's the same thing, well, Etzley is the darga of Shashuyim Atzmim, and says Al Tikram and Ela Uman, which is probably a Maimon Chazal, right? So now, how is Uman fit to a place that the whole elements don't exist? It's not Teifus Mokim. Dehine bechinas chetzenis sadera sheba, right? Sheba va'ayodehu tikun ha'elam shayich likri b'shem Uman. Mela the chetzenis sadera that you could say is Uman, because it's at a level that we said is the prat of Teira. That makes the binyan v'tikun ha'elam.
What is the Altlib's answer there? When the fact that Teira all in Yom Torah are totally b'dik echad. That's the mistake that David Melech made over there in Tanya, or that's the emes of the
mistake? That's the mistake. That's the mistake.
And what was the true thing over there? The same thing like here?
Yeah, I think so. I have to look, but I think it's very similar. I remember read exactly, but I think it's the same thing. The bottom line is the Digda Kal is also Hadrek. If you remember earlier, he says the Digda Kal tells you the Velta Zeichen is Teifus Mokim L'Gabetera. But that not Teifus Mokim is more or less L'Fiyerech. It's still L'Fiyerech. It was not Tefus Mokim, in other words, to bother him in his time of tzara. But it's still a Madrega. Here we're talking about, so Mela, on the level of Chitzenius HaTeira, that the Al Yodei Tikkunim Shaykh Likra B'Shem Uman. Al B'chinas Primus HaTeira, Shekola Erva Agil De'elim is Ein Tefus Mokim Klal Legab Madrega Zu. Think of it again. Ein Sof Lifnei At Tzimtzum, that's Dovig B'Mokim, B'Mayr. Where the whole thing is not Tefus, Eich Shaykh Likra B'Shem Uman. Well, how suddenly is that connected to so-called a tool, or what do we call it? I think Uman is also Umnus. It's his
Right.
job, his work.
Usually Uman means a craftsman.
Yeah, so it could be craftsman, okay.
Craftsmanship.
Yeah.
Umnus.
In other words, the bottom line is suddenly Uman is becoming connected to the place that's supposed to be beyond it all. Okay. Yesh Leimer.
It is a tool to be utilized for something.
Right. Yesh Leimer. So you can see here he's going to the same thing. Remember, even the Ein Sof that's higher than everything ultimately does something for this world, or else they wouldn't need it. It's the same. In other words, till now he brought it up a mile. Now he's bringing it back. That's what he's going to be his beer.
Similar to what Tzvi said. Ultimately, in other words, the ultimate mile of Torah is that it can be used for Elamis.
Look, the paradox is that even though Dirba Tachtenim is the Kavona, but still, in order to have a Dirba Tachtenim, you also have to have Dargas that Tachtenim is not Tefus Mokim for them. You know what I'm saying? You need the constant tension. It's like, the Rebbe brings in the Sichos, just to give an example, that the Meraglim didn't want to go into Elam, into this world. They wanted the Midbar, they wanted Giluyim, L'maylam Elam. They didn't want to go, Eretz Shechel Sheshva, what do you have to do with materialism? So the Rebbe brings, when Kedach heard that they were wrong, so he went to the other extreme. Okay, let's go all the way. What do you need a connection to Mesha? What is it? What is the Lashon that?
Kulam kol ha'eda kulam kedushin.
Right. And Madu Tisnas. Right. You don't need Bechlal. Was that in Lashon Achsidus? What you have Elam Hazeh Atacht. Was that Talmud Tzilus? And he was wrong because you needed Tzilus to give you bitl. So in other words, you can't win. It never goes that you only have one. Tachtenim, even though it was the Kavona, if you didn't have a tzaddik and a rebbe and this, we become then you become self-made, you become completely immersed. So you need constantly, and the Rebbe says, go into the Welt, but don't never never think it's your place. Right. In other words, go there, but you have to know always it's not where you belong, even when you're in Tach. So it's a constant tension that you need constantly the Rotzi V'Shuv type of thing. You understand? You go there, but you have to remember that you don't belong. So if you're Lamaila, you're supposed to go down. When you're down, you have to remember there's higher. Bottom line is we can never get too comfortable. That's not just the truth. Right? That's not the truth. So the Yesh Leimer goes like this. Yesh Leimer lias the close in HaTeira who lias is Chabras Eidin Sofim Elims B'chlal V'Nesham Yisrael B'Frat. So close in HaTeira, all levels of Teira, even the Shashuyim, it's all for one purpose. It's Chabras Eidin Sof Im Elim is B'chlal. This is very important. V'Nesham Yisrael B'Frat. So it's a very it's one of the statements. So Kolos in HaTeira is to make a chibur between Elokus.
This is the lower level of Torah, nothing.
It says Kolos. No, he's saying
even the highest.
He's saying the Pashtas. After we just said all the things that Shashuyam and Batz Musa, it's not the Pashtas.
Okay, let's see what's it. And Neshama Yisrael b'frat. Fine. The lo yesh dover shetuchel lekabel b'chinas atzmis ein seif, or sheyuchel atzmis lishlabish by ki'im HaTeira sheba.
Ki'im HaTeira. Sheba davka.
All right, okay, I'm sorry. Sheba davka yochelius islapshus atzmis v'hi yechel lekabel. So here's another klal. There's nothing that lo yesh dover. There's nothing that can receive and contain atzmus ein sof, or that's inside the makabel, or sheyuchel atzmus lishlabish boy. There's nothing that atzmus could manifest in. So he's saying two things here. There's nothing that can receive, and there's nothing that atzmus could be slabish in without the Torah. Because dafka through Torah you have the slapshus atzmus and you have the yechel lekabel. In other words, bottom line is the Eibush is here. There's no way to him without Torah. There's no other possibility. This is big. There's no back door. There's nothing. So for him to either to be makabel from the Eibush, or for the Eibush to come into anything, Torah is the only path. That changes the equation. I thought there were other ways.
You have the Gilui Likus.
No Atzmus without Torah. Okay. That eliminates some options.
You have Gilui Likus.
What's coming on?
Gets rid of a lot of Eastern religions. A lot of Zen.
No, you can say they're Torah. That's what they'll say. They're also a chilek from Torah chveis. What are you saying?
Says in Tanya, through Gilui Likus, nothing can have an existence. It's very bottle. So how did the Eibusher make the world that it shouldn't be bottle? He made a levush.
He's going to say this right now.
Next, the Shaila, how is the levush not bottle? Now the Rebbe asks in Tanya, in order that the Torah should be bottle, in order that the Torah should exist, it shouldn't be bottle. You have to have a levush. Hashem is Lamigita. Back to the Shaila, how does the levush not become bottle?
The answer is, he's going to say
the answer is the levush is Torah.
Right, the levush is Atzmus, a chilek from Atzmus.
But it
That's
comes
what he's
out,
going to
so
say
then the next
here.
question is that it comes out that the levush is higher than
You know something?
Could be.
The levush is not higher.
Higher than
Chas
the
v'sholem higher.
Higher than the neutral.
No.
in that context.
No. Remember, because Atzmus it could all happen, but then it's
Here it's
a
Atzmus, so he's not talking.
I understand. Let's go. He's going to say it's an excellent
But
question.
the point is that he's saying that the only thing that over there he's saying that same point. The only thing that Atzmus can be mislavish in that won't be bottle is Torah. There's nothing else.
My wife trained me well.
Because the size you saw could be ultimately. Look, the same question can be said about Eir. Eir does something that Atzmus itself doesn't do. But that gufa comes from Keich Atzmus. It creates the ability to create from Mitzvah's built.
I closed my eyes, I wasn't sleeping. I was scared.
Anyway,
Good.
the point.
Atmos can't go into anything. Atmos.
No, but you see,
It's just everything.
No. You have to say it otherwise. Atzmus can go everywhere, but will never be able to relate to it. Because then he does it on his terms. That's the point. Of course you can go.
That means bittul.
It can't go.
No, but take away.
It is everywhere.
Take away. Exactly. No. Take away Eilei Sof and Tzimtzum and Ala Zachen. Everything could be, but then it's detached.
It's not detached. It's bottled. It doesn't exist.
Or that's another way to put it, right? But there's no way back. Basically, there's no way for us to connect. There's no way for us to understand it. There's no way for us to retrace the steps. There's no way. So anyway, okay. No, good. This is exactly the point. The key thing here is to remember that what was I going to say? That Torah, like the alien stuff, it's ultimately so it becomes the conduit essentially. This is the way, the path. That binyan elam, tikkun, everything. Torah b'chlal. Okay. So nothing could be makabel, and the atzmus can't be mislabish in any way without Torah. V'zeu l'fishat Torah hi b'chinas atzmus. Oh, that's a strong one also. But Torah is b'chinas atzmus.
Because it is Atzmus.
The be'emes ha-Torah gufu hu b'chinas atzmus ain't safe. I guess when he was writing this was like as a this is like a little different l'shenas than that's the slapshus obviously. Look, he says the be'emes ha-Torah gufu b'chinas what's get to. He just said Torah hi b'chinas atzmus. What's the be'emes? And what were we thinking before that it wasn't?
It was Chachma of the dock.
Oh,
Only
there you go.
No, that's
That's it. Right. No, it's interesting. The Rebbe Hashem, that's a zich. Ich habe doch erst gesagt, das Chach mit Ak. The truth is Atzmus got, okay, Atzmus ain't safe. So what do we need Chach mit Ak for? Okay, fine.
He tells you why.
To retrace the steps.
Somebody.
Right.
He has a new way of getting angry at somebody. Fuck you.
It's
a problem.
It's a bracha.
Everything is a malkar in the dusha, goes all the way up the Shea. It's a better, Okay, so be'emes the hest, be'emes ha-Torah gufa.
As Torah bechinas was.
The hest, the be'emes ha-Torah gufa. With them alone this alone you can live a whole life. The be'emes, the man said the vez was tutzach, the be'emes Torah is bechinas. It is bechinas gufa, bechinas atzmas insaf. Ve'eich shenemar, be'inyan ha-Torah.
However we're going to say it.
Right, ve'eich shenemar, bechinas chochma, bechinas tainug, how do you bechinas atzmas,
Wow.
Verstehst? No, that's exactly. So in other words, all the Sachen was mit sagen, is alles fine and good, bottom line, at the end of the day, it's atzmas. Moshe is bought. I guess was going to come a lot to, as shall be explained. Well, Cain, V'yecholto lekabel b'chinas atzmus. And this explains why can we mekabel b'chinas atzmus. He's answering the question. Because it's not just a psam mamutza. It's not just something with an external mamutza. It is atzmus. It's
Not a mamutza.
Remember, I'll tell you what this
That's
is.
what a mamutza is. A mamutza has to go to the highest level.
Mamutza mechaber. No, but remember the Pedic we were all struggling with, the one with Eir, where he asked the question, was heißt Eir is a mamutza? It can't be a mutza between gvul and bli gvul. And his answer is, Eir is not a gvul. Eir is David b'mkere. Remember that Pedic?
Yes.
It's a very similar Nakuda here. It's a very similar Nakuda. Remember, you know what Pedic I'm talking about?
You don't have to know.
That whole thing where...
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was going to put on makeup tomorrow too.
What?
just.
You mean a mask?
No.
Pudding.
Yeah.
So that's the Nakuda. That you're talking
You
here...
wait to pour 'em?
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so there's a Torah guf. Okay, fine. Okay, that's why it has that power to mekabel b'chinas atzmus. Va'al yedei ha-Torah yesh b'keich neshamas Yisrael v'mekabel b'chinas atzmus ein seif. Remember, he says b'chlal for Welt and neshamas Yisrael b'farat. So through Torah, a neshama could receive atzmus ein seif. And here he goes to Tanya. V'kamei shekos b'sefer shabein and Pedic lamed vav sha-Torah nikra eiz shehi, and why is Torah called power? Kayach eiz. And his son is keich l'tzadikim, because shehi, Torah gives keich for the tzadikim, l'kabel scharim, l'osad love, shleis battle b'mitzias m'legam. Because there he says, the word, like it says, shaykh v'amunah, that if atzmus elokus is begolis, we can zayin avelt. So Torah creates the keli, so to speak, the mekabel zayin, the tzadikim can mekabel the schar l'osad love, and they should not be bottled in tzus l'gam. The ba'agilid l'osad, L'asad love, the gili is going to be b'chinas atzmus ein seif. Yer b'gili, the primis bin shams yishal. So mitzad zeh yer b'chinas bittul b'mitzias. So you can ask, what's wrong with bittul b'mitzias? The problem is then it's not us. The whole thing about retracing. If Elikus is begoli, it's impossible for us to remain independent entities. I just want to wonder what that means. It's like lifnei at tzimtzum. It's not pshat. There's no entities, but it's like submerged underwater. Nothing is naked. You can't see anything. There's no. What we feel right now, you yourself and I'm me, as a mitzias. That's not possible when you're in yourself. So the question is, how then is there deliberate tachtein? Then it's eis tachtein. Once alakus is begotten. In the b'chdei shelo yizbat b'mitzias on the gamri liyas ayin ve'efes. So the answer is, this is all from Tanya Pedic lamed vav. So the only answer is for you to remain you, and still be able to contain and channel and be part of Ein Sof, his only way is b'keich ha-Torah, zeh b'keich ha-Torah. Hinei b'chdei shelo yizbat b'mitzias l'gamri. That you should not completely be annihilated, eradicated, completely, to be mamish ayin v'efes, nothing and nothing. Zeh b'keich ha-Torah. Of course, ayin efes is more than ayin. That's the kechte. So, however you explain it, because Torah has something that is able to receive and save, able to give it to us in a way that we don't disappear, basically.
So again, how do Goyim exist? You said a minute
They
ago.
don't. It's a dimyan. I'm just kidding.
Do they?
It's a good question. First
We
of all,
talked about it.
no. Remember, the shaila is how Goyim will exist. Lost love it. Today, you could say beside the Tzimtzum. All this is not revealed. We're talking about once this whole point problem here is
Also to give Ayid B'chire.
when Ein Sof is revealed. That's the
That's
problem.
exactly what
When it's
happened
not
with
revealed, there's no
the
problem. We all
Pedic
exist. Doesn't matter. You don't have to be a kid. You could be a klippa. But the question is not that we exist when there's a helam of elikus is not a kasha. That's the whole purpose. The question is, how do you coexist when the Eibush is begoli? That's the problem.
When he says,
The answer is ultimately through Sheva Mitzvahs, and that they also are doing what the Eibush wants. That's what it comes down to. That's why.
So they do with some.
Sheva Mitzvahs is a chelik from Torah. That's ultimately the answer. They will have a chelik l'mabah. The Rambam says. Shilum Maselim.
No, the Rebbe.
From the Rambam.
Yeah,
The Rambam. Yeah. The Rebbe is a chiddush like that. The Rebbe, the reason is ultimately the Asad Lovi. What does it say in the end of the Hilchos Malachim? Mala Oros Deis Hashem is kola is kola elam kule el ladasas Hashem bilvad kola elam kule, and not eden will zayin chacham and venim etc. But mala kola oretz, the whole world will be consumed with it. So that's why they could exist. That's why we could exist. I mean, but here the challenge is coexistence of Eid Sof and our Mitzvah. So Torah becomes that keli. Time up.
Hold on. You can continue. Two questions.
Oh, we can-
Number
we
one,
can start.
Purim is Leonard and
It's 8 as ideas.
yeah, we can get weiter, okay. And
No, I mean listen.
Purim, you want to learn?
We need time. He said time will tell. So time tells.
Am I here tomorrow?
Okay.
I have to know.
I never got to
As
tell.
far as like now, we're going.
We're wasting
I'm
time.
sorry.
Okay.
Whatever.
Dude, I didn't even know they changed the clock till an hour before Shabbos. We'll put out an email.
Simon, I once heard a pshat. I once heard a pshat that David was
I just want to say one more line. Because this is all from Perek Bov. The Ksivat Hareis Ladas. And this inyan was called Hayel Elam, that there was a me'enza, a taste of this by Matan Torah. Which says Atareis Ladas Hashem Elokim Shero B'chinas Ardus Hashem B'chinas Riyah Chushis Mamash. That's what he says there. So Matan Torah was a taste of this, that they saw the kus and they still remained in Mitzvahs, but as he says, a kol dibra parch and nishmas, and also so posh. It ultimately comes down, L'asad Lavi, you're going to be who you are, your personality, individuality,
And you'll see
and you'll be one with the
So basically,
great.
the Torah and Torah. That's basically.
Yeah.
That's why I guess it's
But
the
basically, you're not supposed to take yourself too seriously. That's the bottom line.
Why
David took
if
himself
you
too
don't have
seriously,
that
I'm not supposed to take
darge
myself
in Avona, if you don't have that darge, you can't trace it back.
I wanna.
If you have that darge, you can trace it back. What is it about that darge that gives you the ability to trace it back?
Ultimately, that darga has two parts. It's a part of Elikus and part of us. That's what it comes down to. Remember,
So it gives you the ability to trace
yes,
it back.
and remember, as you are right now, you also are a shtik Elikus.
30 years,
Except
some of it's
it's-
sealed door.
That's exactly Ak. That's
That's
exactly
what.
Ak.
No,
That is
exactly.
Ak.
That's why it's called Moshel Akadmeni. A Moshel.
What time could you
When I give you a
moshel?
moshel, what am I doing that without the moshel you couldn't
Let me check your
understand?
number.
I'm giving you something in your terms.
What's your number?
It's on your
718.
terms. But it's a moshel for something that's
I
not.
really like to fix it because
It helps you get there.
I need to fix it.
There's a lot of there's brilliant examples for this. I mean, it's like
363.
even all the
5, 4,
mashal
2,
we give for children.
360.
It's
And
really
ultimately, the whole,
Five,
the whole idea is bittul. The whole idea is bittul because there is a connection, so automatically your body.
Listen, ultimately the goal is bittul and yesh
That's a
together.
cell phone?
The yesh should be bought.
It goes to my cell phone.
To the extent that the yesh is like, but you want a yesh, you want a mitzvah. Remember, because Eir is the dira b'tachem can't be an Eir in stuff.
Like the
Eir in stuff is
Gold,
like
metal.
I'll check it out. I'll see.
Maybe you could get it and just put
the
it back.
sun reaches here
Like
through
fix it up. It's
sunlight,
just like I paid like
but
30,
you
40
need the
grand,
air.
28 years.
So the light brings the sun here, but it's not the purpose is warming and transforming this world.
That's it.
So you always need to have. It's always a constant, a dual. You have mitzias that was in bottle, and everything is all the levels. It's all about climbing the climbing.
Why is it when you climb?
Look, in Samach Vav, right in the beginning, he puts it. He gives you the imagery. It's very, very clear. The Talmud and the Rab. You start with a beginner student, Beis garden. Think of kindergarten. You went to kindergarten. Think of a child.
Sure.
Aleph Beis. You learn Aleph Beis. The child has no clue what Aleph Beis is going to do for the child. No clue that once you put all these letters together, one day you'll be able to read, and reading will bring you ideas, and ideas will be able to communicate, and then who knows where you can go with that. So you have a kleine keli, if not kleine kind, and you're starting to send air into it. It's an example, you just carve. Then this kelim starts expanding. Not begashmis, start receiving, start understanding. There's an idea, you can abstract. You become ideas hashlila. What's happening? The mind, the keli is expanding. The air now has more room, and suddenly a child that was 2 years old is agansa gone at age 20. What happened? What happened was nothing changed begashmis. The air was mazacher the keli. The keli became more receptive, and now it can contain. You go back and say, "What about the Aleph Beis I learned?" You realize that was just a beginning, and ultimately the Chushe Harav, the Chushe Makal will become like the Chushe Harav, the student can become just as smart as the Rav, and even more, surpassing. You think, how's that possible?
It happens every day.
Yeah, exactly. And that's ultimately, and then you could be Makabal the Eir, he says there, not only what the Rav had before he was Mitzamtzim, but even things that he himself, Eir Chodesh. No, I'm trying to say is that the process is a process that is of constant movement from your Mitzvahs. You started a little kid, on your terms, and now you're receiving things that are completely beyond you.
And seeing how you trace it back?
Yeah, you trace it back, and you still remain in existence. If you gave the child that didn't know Aleph Beis, all that he learned at 20, he'd never be able to do it. That's what I'm saying. It's impossibility.
No, the Mitzvahs and the Bittul of the Mitzvahs.
Exactly. And it's all about measuring where you're at. So if you give somebody too much air too early, you'll destroy him. So it's all about pacing it, basically. It's like spoon feeding.
It's like kid wants to skip a class.
It's Meidic. I'll tell you why it's Meidic, because it's the art of communication. It's the art of how do you tell somebody something. How much do you say? How much don't you say? You know, it's the measuring. It's
measuring your audience.
Yeah.
It's happening right now.
Like right now, you go to the matzah bakery, you see
Right
and how much flour, you know, the two sides. When we were as kids, I used to always ask what the balance was. You know those two guys pouring? Sometimes the two boxes.
Over there still goes there? Over there still there?
Nah.
No.
No?
Shem 10
Umner is Anitzchi. What says no? It's Umner and I understood. I remember they had that matzah bakery as kids. The place it's still
the same way.
Cardboard boxes.
Yeah, I mean nothing changed. Nothing changed.
I remember fish Edelkop. Fish.
Yeah, it was there.
No, he was sitting 770.
Oh.
And Shirkov was giving a shir tiny in the morning. And suddenly Fischl says, Matzes in even arai.
That's Punkt eben.
That was what he was. Remember the Weiber playing those? He
Wow,
would say, Matzes in even arai. They destroyed the shir more or less. You know, Matzah bakeries that throwback, man. You go there, it's like that.
Good thing, I'm around.
I heard of shots.